Today is Monday, April 18th. We'll tell you about Russia's ultimatum for Ukrainian forces and what the U.S. expects to happen next. Also, both the White House and the Texas government are having changes of heart. Two controversial rules are being lifted. Plus, forget nose swabs. A new breathalyzer can now detect COVID-19. Twitter is going for a so-called poison pill to deter Elon Musk. And it's tax day. What to know about filing, refunds, and what to do if you won't make today's deadline. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, unfortunately, we start today with 3 mass shootings that happened over the holiday weekend. First, 10 people were shot Saturday afternoon inside a Columbia, South Carolina shopping mall. Others there got hurt in a stampede of people running to safety. The people hurt ranged in age from 15 to 73, but they all survived. Police say it was not a random act of violence, but they haven't said much else about it yet. One person was arrested, but was released on bond with an ankle monitor. Then, just hours later, at least 9 people were shot at a South Carolina restaurant in what's thought to be an unrelated shooting. But authorities haven't said much else about that one. And the third weekend shooting happened in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, early yesterday morning. Sadly, 2 people died from that one, and they were both minors. It happened at an apartment that was rented out through Airbnb. About 200 people, most of them younger than 18, were there for a party when the shooting started. More than 50 shots were fired inside, and more were fired outside, even a few blocks away. So police think there was more than one shooter. So far, though, no one has been arrested. Well, things are still dire in Ukraine, especially in the southern port city of Mariupol. The city has been under attack for 7 weeks straight. The destruction is so massive that some officials say the city effectively doesn't even exist anymore. And the people who live there have either fled or are struggling to find food, water, and power. Well, over the weekend, Russia gave Ukrainian fighters an ultimatum: surrender Mariupol or die. But the Ukrainians are still holding out. They are determined to keep control over Mariupol because it's a major port, and giving it up would mean losing control over a huge region, since Russia is already occupying areas to the west and east of there. So for now, fighting continues in Mariupol and other parts of Ukraine. But the next major ground battles are expected to happen in the east. As a few news outlets are reporting, senior U.S. defense officials are expecting that phase to begin as soon as this week. And there's some concern Ukraine could run out of military supplies. So the U.S. is now trying to convince allies to send Ukraine more weapons and ammunition. Stay tuned. As of today, the White House will restart selling leases to drill for oil and gas on federal lands. Of course, this comes as President Biden faces growing pressure to expand production here in the U.S. to try and rein in high gasoline prices. But this is a big turnaround for the Biden administration. In fact, Biden had paused new leasing just a week after taking office 15 months ago in an effort to fight climate change. And until now, his administration has insisted that oil companies should be using the thousands of previously approved leases instead that are not being used. That said, things aren't totally going back to the way they used to be. Now, about 80% less land will be made available for the oil and gas drilling leases than originally planned. And the White House will charge companies higher royalties to actually drill. Still, the move is facing some pushback from people on both sides of the issue. Environmentalists do not want to see the land be used for drilling at all. And while many Republicans say more U.S. drilling is a good thing and would make America more independent, the oil industry says the new extra royalties will deter drilling and defeat the purpose. As for the question of whether this will actually help with gas prices, well, industry experts are saying not for a while. It takes at least 6 months to a year before drilling on federal land would actually produce extra supply. So remember last week we told you about a big backup on the border between Texas and Mexico. Well, things are moving a little better now. The Texas governor dropped his new rules that said all commercial trucks from Mexico had to go through extra inspections. Originally, he said they were necessary to curb human trafficking and the flow of drugs into the U.S. But some truckers said the inspections ended up taking so long, it took more than 30 hours to pass through. And since then, things have changed. The Texas governor says he reached agreements with neighboring Mexican states that outline new border security commitments. And with that, the extra inspections were lifted. Still, experts say it will take the next week or two for businesses to make up for the imports lost. So there might be some shortages, especially when it comes to fresh fruits and vegetables, for a little longer. A huge container ship that's been stuck off the U.S. East Coast for more than a month now is finally floating again. The nearly 1,100-foot cargo ship called the Ever Forward spent 36 days stuck in the mud of Chesapeake Bay in Maryland. To finally free it, crews spent the last week offloading hundreds of the containers that were on board. And when it was a little lighter, tugboats were able to pry it loose. This came after several other attempts to free it failed. Now the plan is for it to continue its voyage with nearly 5,000 large containers and go to where it was supposed to, Norfolk, Virginia. By the way, this ship's owner is the same one who owns the Ever Given cargo ship that got stuck in Egypt's Suez Canal last year. That one blocked the world-famous waterway for 6 days and caused massive delays in global shipping. The Ever Forward did not have that same kind of snowball effect, though, because it never blocked the shipping channel. Other boats were able to get around it. Still, the U.S. Coast Guard is going to keep investigating to find out how it got stuck. More news is coming up, but first, this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. People don't always realize that physical symptoms like headaches, teeth grinding, and even digestive issues can be indicators of stress. For me, the source of stress is a combination of things usually, when both my personal and professional lives have a lot going on at once. And that can have a big impact on my mood and how I show up for those closest to me. So it's really important that I deal with it in a healthy way before I start taking it out on others. And therapy is one way I highly recommend because it can help you not only in the moment, but also in the long term. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, so give it a try and see if online therapy can help lower your stress. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and the Newsworthy listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/newsworthy. That's BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/newsworthy. A breath test for COVID-19 is here. For the first time, the FDA has given the green light to a COVID-19 test that can detect infections with only a sample of the patient's breath. It's called the Inspect IR COVID-19 Breathalyzer, and it's about the size of a piece of carry-on luggage. The patient blows through a single-use paper straw enough to inflate a small balloon, and results are expected within just a couple of minutes. A study of the device found it accurately identified more than 91% of positive samples and nearly 100% of negative ones. Still, the FDA says any positive result should be confirmed with a PCR test, which is considered the gold standard. And just like other rapid tests, any negative result does not definitely rule out a COVID-19 infection. Still, the company behind the device calls it a potential game changer for quickly testing a lot of people. The FDA gave it emergency use authorization to be used in medical offices, mobile testing sites, and other places with qualified staff available. There's yet another update in the Elon Musk Twitter saga. Twitter's board of directors has now adopted what's known as a poison pill defense. It's in response to the offer Musk made last week to buy the company for $43 billion. And it'll take effect if Musk's roughly 9% stake in the company grows to 15% or more. The poison pill move would essentially give Twitter's existing shareholders, except for Musk, time to buy more shares of Twitter at a discount. So it dilutes Musk's stake in the company and makes it harder for him to take over. Twitter said its plan would lower the likelihood that any one person or group gains control of the company without either paying shareholders a premium or giving the board more time to evaluate an offer. But Elon Musk said last week that if his initial offer to buy Twitter and take it private does not work out, he does have a plan B, though it's not clear what that is just yet. As early as today, your kiddos will be able to hug Disney characters once again. For nearly 2 years now, the costumed characters like Mickey Mouse, Cinderella, and Mulan have had to keep their distance at Disney parks in the U.S., of course, because of the pandemic. But starting today, the characters will be able to go back to interacting with visitors up close for photos, autographs, and hugs at Disney World resorts, Disneyland, and on Disney cruises. The traditional locations for character greetings will not all open right away, but will reopen in phases. Today, the Boston Marathon is back on its usual April date for the first time in 3 years. The 2020 race was canceled because of COVID-19, and last year's race got scaled back and postponed until the fall. Now, about 30,000 competitors are going to be running in the perfect spring weather. The competitors come from all 50 states and 122 countries. Today's race also marks the 50th anniversary of the first official women's field to run the Boston Marathon. Only 8 women finished that race in 1972. Today, more than 12,000 women are signed up. One of the runners a lot of people are watching is Adrienne Haslett. She lost her leg when bombs went off near the Boston Marathon finish line in 2013, and now she's back. But this time she's running with a former Olympic runner, Shalane Flanagan, as her support trainer. And there are some other famous people running this year as well, like NASCAR champion Matt Kenseth and The Bachelor Season 25 star Matt James. If you want to watch, you can catch the Boston Marathon live on USA Network this morning or on the NBC Sports app. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about an interesting money-related news story. And today is all about tax day. But first, a message from our sponsor. I'm always thrilled to talk about Tommy John because my absolute favorite pair of lounge pants are my Tommy John lounge joggers. I first bought them thanks to a close friend's recommendation while I was still pregnant because I knew I wanted something super cozy after having the baby, so I was on the hunt for the most comfortable lounge pants that exist that still made me feel stylish and cute. And Tommy John's lounge joggers have lived up to the hype. I now have 2 pairs. The material is super soft, it feels so good on, and it's also lightweight and easy to move around in. And by the way, Tommy John has great options for both women and men. And get this, it's Tommy John's anniversary month, so whether you're trying them for the very first time or if you're a longtime fan, you can get 25% off site-wide right now at TommyJohn.com/newsworthy. Go to TommyJohn.com/newsworthy today for 25% off. TommyJohn.com/newsworthy and see site for details. Now back to Money Monday. If you haven't filed your 2021 federal tax returns yet, now is the time. Today is the official deadline. Well, for most people. If you live in Maine or Massachusetts, you have until tomorrow because of the Patriots' Day holiday. So this deadline is when you're expected to get all your forms in and pay any money you owe. If you're not ready, you can file for a 6-month extension. But keep in mind, if you owe money, you're still supposed to pay that today, extension or not. And if you don't pay on time, the federal government will tack on penalties and interest. Of course, it's also possible the IRS could owe you money. And if so, it says the quickest way to get your refund is to file online and opt for a direct deposit. That way, the money will go right into your bank account within 21 days. By the way, the IRS says refunds are averaging about $3,200 this tax season. That's 11.5% higher than last year. The IRS points to extra tax credits you can qualify for this year, like the enhanced child tax credit. All right, thank you so much for listening today and every day. We'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.